Hey everyone, welcome back to Creator Heist. Today we have with us my good friend Janis. How are you, Janis?
Hello. I am doing well, Alex. I'm doing well. It's good to see you again.
Awesome. For anyone that I know you a lot, so it's hard for me to introduce you because I know a lot of stuff. So can you give us like the short version, like one two lines of like who you are, what you do, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, like super brief intro would be that around 8 years ago, I just got the Tim Ferriss book, the 4 Hour Work Week, got the 4 Hour Fever, and just wanted to have this laptop lifestyle and do this creator type of thing online, and did want to quit my 9 to 5, etc. So I just started to study around those topics. Failed for several years. Tried many different things. None of them worked. Felt like an uphill battle. Around 3 years ago, one of the content creation formats I really enjoyed was creating visuals, which is just kind of communicating interesting ideas through very simple visuals online. That's kind of where I got my little niche creator fame. And from there came some freelance opportunities. People asked me how I do this stuff. So I built a course where I teach this thing. And yeah, I've been doing this full time for around 3 years, and yeah, just living the dream right now, and just continuing to sharing what I'm interested in, and doing this stuff full time. It was a bit all over the place, but that's how my life actually looks like, and my work, it is a bit all over the place.
Yeah, no, that was pretty good. That was a pretty good intro. Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know Yanis, he's like really well known for his visuals, like these super simple visuals that convey like a complex idea in a simple visual. I think that's one of the best ways to describe it. Like for anyone that wants to take a look, they just run to your Twitter, your Instagram account, and see what you have there. You have built like quite a big following thanks to it, and you have worked with a lot of interesting people thanks to it too. So today I wanted to bring you on to talk more about like these visuals, like how do you make them, like what's the secret and all of that. So if you want, I can start with. I guess this is the one of the most common questions that you get is like where you get your ideas for these visuals, like where do you find this inspiration and all of that.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's just about capturing just regular ideas. Before we even go into creating like visuals, etc., there is a certain process you can apply. But first thing, I think you need to actually look for ideas, because most people, when it comes to like, hey, I don't have any ideas, I think they have the perception of like that ideas will just come to their mind like, hey, honest, there is this great idea, and here is the
Yeah.
idea. But it doesn't work like that. You need to kind of tune up your awareness a bit and really look for ideas. If your intention is content creation, whether it's writing or visuals, you need to you listen to those podcasts, you read those books, you like read an interesting line which maybe triggers some past experience or whatever. Take a note of it. Like, note taking is just a very crucial part of this whole process. Because we all know how hard it is to start with a blank page. So that's just something that is very useful habit to develop. But when it comes to converting those ideas into visuals, there of course is certain prompts, certain brainstorming kind of framework that you can go through to come up with these visuals. Because you can take whatever, a super random idea that I feel very stressed before
Yeah.
interviews, and then you can start to come up with like, okay, what other ideas comes around this thing? What type of advice I could give to this type of person? What things I could say to my friends when I'm feeling this way? So you start to come up with more elements around the central idea. And then, of course, if you have seen my visuals or other visuals, there are certain things how you can represent things. You can think about what metaphors I can come up with here, how I could paint the scene in this scenario. And that could be like, maybe I can illustrate a calendar and make that, hey, I have this important meeting here, and
Yeah.
before it I feel super crazy. So you can put some sort of illustration there about like thinking bubbles or something like that. How I can illustrate this idea or some elements of this idea in some sort of Venn diagram, or all these visual elements that we are familiar with. and you just go through that brainstorming process and you start to come up with things and connect the dots. But of course it's not like, it's super straightforward.
Yeah.
It is messy, it is all over the place, the same that you are more familiar with writing. When you come up with a really good snappy tweet, I'm sure it took you many iterations, to figure out that perfect phrasing and putting words in the right place. And it's very similar with visuals as well.
Yeah, no, that's, I think that's super interesting. I like the point about tuning up your awareness, like being super aware of, like, consuming a lot of information, I guess. And it's just not consuming, but doing something with that information, in the sense of like, oh, this gave me like an idea. Let's just write down like this one sentence here in my notebook, or in my, whatever iPhone notes, or whatever people are using for this. And then just come back and revisit those ideas. And that's where the process starts, I guess, right? Like something like that. So I think that's super cool. I remember you once telling me that one of your, I think it was like super early on the beginning, like in your journey, that one of the first ideas that you got like for a visual was like reading a book of one of your kids, like a children's book, and you saw like a visual of like I don't even remember what it was, like a machine or something, and you got like
Yeah,
this
it's like
pleasure from there.
this drum roller that they use, to smoothen out the tarmac or whatever. So yeah. And that's as well. That's exactly as you said. It's tuning up awareness. If I know I am in the visual game, and if I see this drum roller, it instantly like, okay, this could smoothen out things. And there's a lot of like ideas around smoothing something out. Because whatever. And like the original idea was there, that meditation and mental clutter. And you can kind of ride over it, and that's like an interesting visual metaphor. But
Yeah. That's super cool. Like, I mean, I'm curious, like now that you are explaining like that, it's super cool to see how you see like this machine that makes things like smoother, and then you are like extracting the idea of like smoothing things just by that. Like, so it's super cool to see how you make those connections. Like, okay, another thing that I've seen from your visuals is that it's super easy for them to go viral. And not because they are like it's not like when we speak about these visuals, again, it's like a simple thing. Let's say, I mean, I'm not saying like it's low quality thing. It's like it's a simple drawing. It's not like the Mona Lisa, for example, but it goes viral because of its simplicity, but also because of the concepts that it represents. It's usually, like in your case, I think it's usually like general concepts, or people, things that people can relate to like a lot. So would you say that's one of the secrets that makes like this type of content creation like so easy to go viral?
Yeah, for sure, that's a big aspect of it, because like one of my general principles initially and in general as well is like I want to kind of respect my audience's attention. And to me, these visuals, I'm not that interested in making extremely pretty pictures or whatever. Of course, I like to make them look decent and nice, so it's like pleasing to look at, so it's not absolutely super crazy. Though I really appreciate other creators, like Tim Urban from Wait But Why, who creates these super like kind of ugly childlike drawings, but it works for communication. And that's what visuals is to me. It's just a vehicle for effective communication for some particular ideas. And it's exactly as you said, it's kind of similar why memes work super well, these super relatable random images that kind of communicate a lot. You put two words there and it's just relatable and you can digest it super fast. And that's one of the beauty of visuals is, we all know that I don't know exactly the research or whatever, but that we perceive things visually way faster than it would read. You can look at something big and something small, and if I write two words there, you know that this is big and this is small. But maybe writing through text, it would be a bit longer to explain, or it's just, metaphors work there really well, because when you see metaphors, you instantly like understand like the general idea there. And that's how you decrease the time, how fast people digest that particular idea. And of course, for thing to go viral, I think it's a big part of the puzzle that it should be easier and fast to digest, because people these days are super lazy. And this is especially important if like your credibility is rather low. If your credibility is low, people will not really want to pay attention to you, because whatever, you have not established yourself as a credible source or whatever. But when you can communicate something that takes you, a split second or 1 second to digest, it's more likely that everybody will pay attention to it if they will see it. And as you said, if they can relate to it, if you make them laugh, if you give them an interesting insight in like a novel way, it's very
Yeah.
likely that it will go viral.
Yeah, I think the point you made about feeling like a meme, I think that's like a really good comparison, because memes are like, they are not really well crafted. Usually, they are usually like ugly pictures, or like screenshots from like a TV show or something like that. They are like crappy quality, but they manage to convey an idea like super fast. And when people do that, like click on their heads, it's like super easy for them to share it. Versus like a 1,000 word blog post. I mean, that you need to sit down for like 5 minutes and actually read it. In your case with these visuals, it's like I can literally consume it in like 3 seconds. So I think that's one of the coolest things about these visuals. So for anyone listening to this, it's like, okay, I'm convinced visuals are like a cool thing that I should do, but I have like zero design skills. Like I have no idea how to do these drawings. I never drawn in my life. Like, what would you say to these people?
Well, I think one thing which you kind of mentioned as well, that all these memes, etc., they are kind of ugly, but they work because, again, you need to have this reframe in your mind that use it as a vehicle for effective communication. Forget about visuals and fancy art, etc.,
Mm.
etc. Like, forget about it. It's not important. And then, like, just as an exercise, go to my Instagram or some other visual artist's Instagram, take a marker, take a paper, and try to recreate just the idea with your marker and paper, and then snap a picture of it. And you will communicate the same idea, of course, in more scrappy, raw type of way, but
Hmm.
it will work. You will communicate that idea. And that's that's kind of where you can start. You can just recreate things with your hands, with pen and paper. Maybe you have iPad and some basic drawing app, and you can just scribble things down. All that works. Of course, if you want to get more fancy, just I personally use Figma. It's a free tool that everybody
Yeah.
who's watching this can have access to. Go on YouTube, listen to like 15-minute tutorial how to use pen tool, basics of Figma. I basically just use like 5 tools. You need to know layers, colors, basic stuff, and then just try to like recreate things. That's how you will kind of master the technique, and then you'll start to kind of adapt and innovate and create your own stuff, etc. So it's not that hard. You're just kind of holding a belief that, oh, I'm not a designer, I'm not this, I'm not that, and it's just holding you back. It's it's all peanuts. And now, like, these days, with AI, you can
Hmm.
really, like, I think, ask for more tailored advice. And I have not really explored that much AI, and I'm sure it's like can be very helpful as well. um so yeah, and
Yeah.
again, when I say about like you can draw things with pen and paper and take a picture of it, there's many examples where images
Yeah.
like those go super viral. So if your intention is just to communicate ideas and just having this type of format just as an additional type of way how you communicate things, and you don't care to be like a freelance like visual artist or whatever or anything like that, if you don't care about that, you can keep it like crazy and scrappy like that. People do enjoy this behind the scenes look, where things are kind of ugly, and that's why, again,
Yeah.
those memes work, etc. So that's kind of the what I would say to that.
Yeah, and I personally think that right now, like scrappy looking content is actually trending in a positive way, because it's like as I see it, it's like a to like all of the AI generated content that we see out there. Usually, like AI generated images are like super over the top. Like they have like a lot of elements, a lot of colors, a lot of like everything. And when you see like an ugly drawing here, with the pen and paper, it's like the total opposite, and maybe that draws more attention than the like the over the top design. So that's another thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I have started, a bit trying to share a bit more like behind the scenes and show maybe the
Yeah.
human side of me, because that is like kind of my, I would say, not a big fear, but I think that like it's harder to just be an idea content creator who just kind of generates content
Yeah.
secretly, and if the ideas especially are not super interesting or novel or whatever, you need to add that like personality or whatever. So there's definitely a point of like kind of AI taking over, and if you just create content what AI could do. I think that's not the smart way. How you need to figure out how to create that whatever behind the scenes vibe, or just bring your personality, or I don't know. I don't have a good answer to this, but that's you have a point there, and I think it's something that content creators should think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen you also like starting to do more of these behind the scenes content, like sharing me more about like Janis the person, and not so much of like I'm just really a visual guy. I'm like I do these visuals, but also like I have, oh, today I did this thing on my website, or tomorrow I'm going to do this thing, or last weekend I went surfing or whatever, But I think it's cool to like mix those two types of content. I think that's something that everyone should do, because sometimes when we create these personal brands or whatever you want to call it, like everyone is on like the work aspect, like I'm super good at like marketing or whatever, but there is like 10,000 people that can do marketing as good as you, and maybe better than you, but no one can do it as you, because there is only one you. Right? So if you don't show that part, it's way harder for people to like relate with you, I guess.
Yeah, and I also think, I think there's, I don't know if it's that trendy anymore, but in YouTube, there was this behind the day in a life of this and that, and these were
Yeah.
super, so it was a super popular trend, and I think it has like, because I don't know if like creators I admire, even like super big ones, like let's say Tim Ferriss, I'm extremely interested when he shares like very like super weird things that kind of maybe are not even good ideas or whatever, but I'm just very interested how he operates. What does he do in his free time? I don't know what he feeds to his dog or whatever. All those things are
Yeah.
interesting, because I like the guy. I've gotten some value from him, and I don't know, it's just interesting.
Yeah, that's super cool. Let's talk about like, because some people might be wondering, okay, so this guy does these visuals, they go super viral, he's growing like this audience or whatever, but he needs to pay the bills, and I don't think visuals, I don't think you can give a visual to like the, to the water company or whatever. So I'm curious to hear a bit more about like the monetization aspect of what you do with these visuals, because I know that it has opened like a entirely new world for you, because you used to have a 9 to 5 that had nothing to do with visuals, and now you live because you pay your bills with visuals. I mean, not directly with visuals, but thanks to the work that you do with visuals. So can you tell us about what you do for money right now with these visuals?
Well, yeah, it all started. I was in a kind of good position when it started, because like I was working in 9 to 5, and it was whatever, we managed to save up some money. So basically I started to gain some audience. I was quite stressed at work. Some people reached out to me on DM, hey, I want to hire you to do these visuals for me. And I said no at the time, because that was not my intention was not to quit 9 to 5 in exchange for a freelance.
Mhm.
But whenever like we sat down with my wife and kind of did run the numbers, and we understood, okay, even if we earn absolute zero, with all the like whatever government support when you quit the job, etc., with our savings, if we don't earn anything, we can maintain our like lifestyle for like 2.5 years. So that was like,
Nice.
okay, I'm not like my skill set or whatever in the corporate world was pretty in demand as well. I thought, like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? If nothing will work, for a year or whatever, I can try to go
Mhm.
back, etc. And it wasn't like I was burning the bridges in the companies or whatever. So I wasn't in a need to make money from creating content early on, which I think is pretty important, because I don't know if I would be where I am now if I would be in extreme need to earn money right away. Because I
Yeah.
think it's very cool if you can create from a place of where you just don't need, where you create from a place of intrinsic motivation. I want to do this is interesting to me, instead of trying to like create everything as a funnel and just try to get people to convert or
Yeah.
whatever. So that was very, I think, good place to be when I created content. And I just genuinely engaged with others, tried to do my best work. My audience grew, I had a decent reputation online. Some people reached out to me like on DMs offering freelance, so I did here and there some sort of freelance, but very occasionally. But one thing which happened was just like people asked me, hey Janis, how do you do this, how do you do this? And I understood, okay, this is kind of deal. Of course, one of the ways how a lot of content creators earn money is through courses. And that's what I did as well. People asked for it. I thought, okay, I will package everything I know, all my process templates, etc., etc. And I just made a course on it, and that has been the primary revenue driver for the past like almost 3 years, I would say, a bit less. And yeah, occasionally I do freelance. I currently illustrate a book. I have illustrated some other books, and I think, yeah, that's pretty much my revenue, apart, of course, like some super small newsletter sponsorships or some workshops here and there where I teach this stuff as well. But one thing
Yeah.
which I would say I don't think a lot of people are using is, for example, on X, I get tons of DMs from these ghostwriters. Hey, Janis, I can write content for you. I can write your newsletter content. I can do
Yeah.
this. I can do that, etc., etc. And I think a lot of people do that very poorly. I have no intention to hire them, but I think a really good advice. I think guys from Ship 30 and 30 share, like Nicholas Cole, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He shares like really good advice how to get ghostwriting clients. And I think a lot of people are using that, and a lot of people are earning a lot of money in that type of way. But I don't see a lot of people doing this from the visual standpoint. Like, hey,
Yeah.
Alex, I see this is your content. By the way, I created here like 3 interesting visuals. These are for free for you. Go have fun with them. But by the way, I charge this and that if you want to maybe hire me. And of course, like you can target certain people. And I think this is a good way how to earn money, because in
Definitely.
our bubble, of course, more visuals starts to appear, because I teach them, some other people teach them as well. But I think there's so many different niches where this is absolutely not used at all, and I think it
Yeah.
has a lot of potential, because again, it's just a vehicle for effective communication, and it's a nice addition how to stand out online, even with your super great writing or whatever. So yeah, I would say something like that. Who would like to earn money with this?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like a good, very good niche to be in, because there is not that many competition as versus writing, as you said, for example. And again, you don't need to be like a super skilled designer. I'm not a skilled designer at all. I have like zero artistic skills. And I took your course actually early on when you dropped it. I did start making visuals, and some of them really went like, I think if you go out look at my top 20 tweets, 10 are like visuals, so it's a vehicle that really works to convey ideas to share with the world. So if you know how to do that for yourself, it's super easy to do it for someone else also. And a lot of people are willing to pay a lot of money for that, for sure. And not only like creators, I'm also talking about like companies,
Yeah.
or something like that, that they have like, a pitch deck or whatever, or like internal presentations, all of that. I think that's like super interesting. If I were to do this for a living, I would go to companies like B2B, stuff like that, because
Yep.
I think that would be like big money maker.
I think so.
So
Yeah. Well, one thing which I would disagree a bit on what you said is that it's easy to do for others. I think it's a lot
mm,
easier to do it for myself, because let's say
yeah,
if I talk about creator economy, a bit of like personal development,
yeah,
productivity type of stuff, I have this infinite directions where I can go, and basically I can come
yeah,
up with ideas and like, okay, this is interesting, push it out. But if I get an assignment, hey, Janis, illustrate this book, I really need to push myself to come up with these concepts that go really well with what other people have said. And that's a bit harder. But at the same
yeah,
time, it's a super nice kind of constraint, because it really forces you to push you and like unlock some other concepts, other templates you come up with. All that is a nice forcing function to come up with new stuff. But it's not
mhm.
necessarily easy. In general, it's a bit harder. But of course, you can charge money for that, etc., etc. And the more you will do, the easier it will be. But yeah.
No, that's a really, I think it makes sense actually. So yeah, I think that's super cool. Your course is also like really good. I mean, I shout out to your course.
Thank you.
We'll plug it later if you want to. But I think honestly was like really good. I mean, really helped me. Because at the same time it was also like not really long. So I actually could learn the skill like in a short amount of time. So if anyone wants to take a look, I will leave a link somewhere. But we will also mention it at the end of the episode. But I wanted to, before we end, like go through a few concepts that you have shared here and there that were like super interesting. One you already mentioned, which was the respect your audience's attention. I think that's a really good And that's one of the first things that it resonated with me when you shared it. So what do you mean exactly by that? To anyone that has never heard of that, like, how do you explain like this respect your audience's attention concept?
Yeah, I would say this is particularly important when you are starting out and when your credibility is low. Because, like, if your goal is to, build a following, of course, you start on socials because it's easier. There are people, then you can funnel them into newsletter, etc., etc. But if your goal is to grow on socials, just imagine, if I scroll and I see something long from you and the hook is not good and I just, this is overwhelming, I'm keeping scrolling. If you share something novel, something interesting, something snappy and good, where, okay, what does this guy, whatever, is sharing here? I'm like, okay, interesting. Nice, I can relate to this idea. It's actually a cool idea. You hit like, you maybe check comments. I click on your profile. I scroll a bit your profile. What do I see? Do I see how you are constantly like retweeting others and, I don't know, maybe going into like crazy politics or whatever? Is it just full of fluff and crazy stuff? Or I see, wow, you are sharing interesting, novel ideas. I feel you are respecting my attention. I can get value from you just like by seeing what you do here. And that's how people follow you. That's how they will maybe even put like notifications to see your stuff. And that's kind of just the how I would think about this. Not super complicated. And you can check out like who are you following, why are you following them. I assume it's like a similar type of reasoning would go on there. So yeah, that's essentially what I mean by it. I really appreciated when others respected my attention. But of course, again, like this changes a bit over time because now I go in a bit more like behind the scenes, and sometimes I really like when somebody shares something longer and shares about whatever. So it's a kind of balance. But especially at the beginning, if you will not respect your audience's attention, you will have no audience.
Yeah, I think it's very important to do that, as you said. Like when I mean, I see an interesting piece of content, you click on the profile, and then not everything is about that topic. Is about like a bunch of topics, like yesterday's football match and tomorrow's politics or whatever. It's like, you quickly lose interest. So it's a balance, as you said. Like, okay, it's okay to share like personal stuff, I think.
Yeah, for sure,
But
for sure.
there needs to be like a big balance of like that personal stuff with your main topic, whatever that is.
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
think
something
like
that,
I think like
yeah,
80-20 rule is a good one to
yeah,
apply here.
yeah.
80% do this, 20%, go crazy, do your random stuff or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, but I think not that many people follow that early on, and that's why their audience doesn't grow that much. It's not because their content or what they're saying is not good. It's all over the place. So, at the early on, we just want to follow people before, after a while, you might even start to like the person, but when you don't know them, you need to follow them for one reason. And maybe it's like because he talks about marketing and I'm super interested in my marketing, okay. But if he talks about marketing today and football tomorrow and politics the next day, it's like, yeah, I don't care about that much. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know you, but if I know you for a while and then you share a pic of your dog, then I will like the pic because I like you and I like your dog. So
exactly. That's
that's how I think
exactly how
about
it
it.
happens. Yeah, exactly. It's the same way how I think about it as well. And that's, I can apply this and say that it's true for most people I follow online and for liking their dogs. I didn't start to follow them because they shared their dog, but they shared something and gave value, and I kind of fell in love with the person, and then you start to like more of whatever they do.
Yeah, I love that. There is like one more thing that I want to comment with you. One of your most viral tweets, probably like ever, is this visual that you shared where there is like four loops that cause creative struggle. I think you are pretty sure you know which one I'm mentioning. Um, what can you tell about us about that? Because I know that you are a procrastinator. I would say, I don't say it in a bad way. You are a pretty procrastinator. You tell me almost every day. You told me before this call, you're like, yeah, I mean, listening to podcast, blah, blah, I'm not doing too much. So like this creative struggle, like it's a bit like that too. So do you have like any advice for people that are like that? Because you are a procrastinator, but at the same time, every day you get content out, you do your freelance stuff, you do everything, even if everything feels that it outside of control, it is actually under your control. So, do you have like any advice for procrastinators out there?
Yeah, I guess I do. And in general, it's not like I'm super productive every day. Sometimes for a week, I just like not doing much and just watching some videos and seeing waves in the sea and go surfing, and just don't work. So it's not like all the time. But I really like this idea of having sprints. Okay, I have like a freelance client. No, just put a bit more effort. It's all good. Let's hustle a bit more, and then relax, and all that is fine. And I'm definitely pretty good at, which is kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time, but I think I'm pretty good at not blaming myself or having like, oh, I didn't work today, so now I feel shitty. I'm just whatever, we'll get it tomorrow. It's fine.
Yeah.
So not beating myself up. But like the biggest thing when it comes to like productivity for lazy people, as I would kind of consider myself like that. But I don't know. I don't think there are that many lazy people. Actually, I think there are just people who do the wrong things, who don't do the things that they are meant to do. It's
Yeah.
like, because most of the stuff I do, it's really intrinsically motivating. I love this stuff. When I started it, of course, now I don't wake up at like 4:30 in the morning anymore, because it's like I don't feel the need for it. But when I worked in the 9 to 5 and I started to go to bed early, I quitted alcohol, I stopped watching Netflix. That was around the same time I had my first kid. I started to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to work and do this stuff before my 9 to 5, because it was just so interesting. I was so obsessed with like this goal and having this freedom that I'm having now. And all what that was primarily, I don't think because I had tremendous discipline. Because if you would look back like, yeah, man, Janis, you build this like lifestyle or whatever, you do this now full time, etc., etc., you must be tremendously disciplined. I wouldn't say so. I really can't say that looking back, some days really felt like extreme grind. Maybe some periods, when I built out the course and set this public deadline, and I was like, oh shit, this is bad, and I need to refilm this, and it was crazy and stuff. There was some intense periods, but most of it is like intrinsically motivating. So I guess for most people, I would say just really try to find that connection. What do you really enjoy? And I don't know. For some, I think it's a crappy advice. Some people need to say that like, hey, suck it up, and just do it, because what's the alternative? Uh, but I don't know. I think you need to quit a lot of things, try a lot of things in order to find what you're kind of meant to do, and then just kind of take it from there. I know it's a bit all over the place otherwise, but yeah, don't be so hard on yourself. Just try to find the stuff that's really interesting to you. And what I would say, like a little plug for visuals, it's not a plug, but that was the case for me. When I tried YouTube, I tried writing, I tried this and that, and all those things to me felt like an uphill battle. But for visuals, most of the work is in the brains. It's like researching, having ideas, jotting something down on paper, having sticky notes, putting them on the wall. Like all that stuff usually is fun for people. And in corporations, everybody wants to go to the whiteboard and sketch some ideas and stuff. And that's like the main work for these visuals, to actually sit down and design them in Figma. Of course, first couple of visuals will take a bit more time, but they can take like 15 minutes and you're done. So it was a very easy content creation format to be consistent, which eventually really helped with growth, etc. So I'm trying to fall in love with writing. I want to write better, and it does not come easy for me. That feels a bit harder, but I'm kind of trying to figure out and hack my way into loving writing. But yeah, that's just a rant on this topic.
No, I think that was really good. And the last point of like, find the format that you feel that you can be consistent with. I think that's where a lot of people fail to. Like a lot of people might fail with like, I want to be YouTuber, but doing like a YouTube video takes like at least like how people envision YouTube videos is like you need to script, you need to record, you need to edit, and that takes like 2 weeks. And by the time you do two, you're like burned out because you have put 2 videos out, and you're like, shit, I don't want to do anymore, But doing a visual is like, okay, maybe it takes you 30 minutes, but it's 30 minutes every day. That's something like manageable for most people, and I can put one visual out every day, and that's like way more output into the world. So you get also more feedback, So even if you want to be a YouTuber, like what I said, maybe just don't think too much about the format and the video and whatever. Just like take your phone, record yourself, in the car, like we were talking before about this guy that records in the car, giving life advice, and he has like 5 million followers. Okay, do that, like first test it like in a smaller format that you can put out consistently, and then you can professionalize if you need to do it. But
Absolutely.
early
I
on.
think it's a great advice. It reminds me of the advice that I sometimes use from Tim Ferriss, and he has this little quote, which is how it would look if it were easy.
Yeah.
So you take this question of I want to be a YouTuber, but in mind you have these extremes. You have watched like Matt Diavella, this super polished stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, I need to create this. But no, how it would look if it would be simple. And then you maybe embrace more like Casey Neistat type of style, and really just vlog around and do random
Yeah.
stuff and just don't do any repeat talks and just whatever. If you make a typo, just say whatever, I made a typo, and continue to go. And so all those are constraints that you can put, I guess, on any type of content creation.
Yeah.
Even writing, I'm sure, which is kind of interesting, because I have built following, through visuals, and I have my whatever reputation that I don't want to kind of mess up, etc. And now I have set this very high bar for writing, and that is kind of, I think, paralyzing me of putting out more writing, because I kind of build this reputation with visuals, and I'm going into this new format, and I want to be as good as I am in the visual game, which I'm sure is kind of delaying my learning or whatever. Just imposter syndrome and perfectionism and just being afraid what other people will think of me.
Yeah. We've all been there, I think. We all feel paralyzed, and we all feel that we need to be better than we actually need to be. So just start writing shitty tweets, Janis. That's the answer.
Yeah, we'll try to follow that.
I think it's time to wrap it up. So where can people find you if they want to learn more, especially about making visuals?
They can just go to my website /course. That's where the course is at. My website is my surname and name, ozolinsjanis.com, or you can go to ozo.art, which will just lead you to a random page that you can find on my visuals. And then I say that please don't steal them and credit me if you use them, because that's what happens with the visuals. When you start to go viral, everybody takes your work and then tries to go viral with it. That's where you can find me, and all my socials are there, and feel free to follow and say hi, and I answer to every email I get, unless you are super weird. Sometimes just people do so weird stuff. They just
I can imagine.
Try to instantly like pitch you with something, and super unethically or whatever. But people say nice things and just introduce themselves. It's very nice. I have most interesting conversations I have with people online is on my newsletter. When people sign up, they usually hit reply, and I think you do the same. I kind of stole this idea from you to incentivize people to reply when they join, and some good conversations comes out of it. I'm pretty slow with answering when I don't know, get some spikes and a lot of people reply. It's a bit tedious to answer everybody, but when I do, it's actually very rewarding and interesting, and it's nice to have these conversations online.
Yeah, awesome. So everyone go subscribe to Janis' newsletter and reply to him, so he has a lot of emails to get back to. Okay, cool. That's a wrap. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Janis, for being here.
Thanks, Alex. My pleasure.